Hello! So in this tutorial I'll teach you how easy it is to create a business logic service to get a record from a database table. So first thing to do is to log in our framework, choosing the advanced workspace, and currently we see that we have two default projects here. So basically this is a default demo. So what we want to do is to create a new project. So a new project, let's call it teaching. By default my browser adds this some data in this field. So what we want to do is we want to add this project to the root folder, so we don't want to add this inside of any folder. So let's now create a new database for this project. Let's select the correspondent drivers and the correspondent fields. In here we want this to be teaching. Don't forget to put a username and with the correspondent credentials of a user that has permissions to create this database. If you want, you can show some advanced options or not, it depends. And basically let's just save our correspondent projects. Project is saved, as we can see here, appear here teaching, and let's select our correspondent project. Okay, perfect. So now let's go to our database layer and let's create some databases. Currently we don't have any database created, so let's just do this very fast. By default the system creates these attributes here, so let's add a new attribute called name, which is a long name. Okay, let's move it here. Perfect. Well, as a matter of fact, we can erase all these other attributes that we won't need them. And perfect. Currently we have here our table created. Very simple, just two attributes: school ID auto incremented key. The name is a simply string. So now let's add some default records for the sake of this tutorial in this table. So because this auto incremented key, I don't need to fill this field here, so I can just save it. Okay, record saved correctly, and let's create a new one. Save. Okay, perfect. And we have here two records, two default records that we just added to our school table. Okay, database is done. Now let's go to our logic service and let's create a new service in here, a new service object inside of this folder. So let's create here, add service object manually. Let's give it a name, school service. Let's save, so automatically it fills up all these fields here. Perfect. And now if we expand this, we can see that we have our new service here. So now let's add a new service method, so that will get the record from the database. So then we can call these methods from the interface layer. Okay, so let's give it a name here, call it get school. Let's save. Okay, perfect. And now we have here the get school method here, as you can see. Okay, perfect. Now what we want to do, we want this service to receive a school ID as an input. So first thing to do is to go to the annotations here, add a new annotation called school ID. This will be the type of big int and cannot be null. Okay, perfect. So now this new method is receiving an input called school ID. Perfect. So now let's just drag and drop the correspondent task here to communicate with the database and get the correspondent record. To do that, we're gonna use this task here, execute dbDAO action. So we just drag and drop it here and automatically opens the properties here. And what we wanna do is to find objects from the database, and let's use the wizard so to be faster. So let's choose the teaching database, that were the database that we created. Let's choose the correspondent table that we created, which was the school, and automatically the wizard fills up these fields here. So we want this to return the school ID and the name attributes, and we want the conditions to be a school ID, and in here we need to pass the input of that specific the input that we created here for this specific method. Now to do that, we just click here. Want this to be a local variable, so the inputs are inside of a data variable. all of the inputs, so we just need to put here data, and in here we need to put the name of the input that we gave, which is school ID. Okay, we do update and automatically this part is done. Now we want to return these records to a variable, so we just need to put here simple variable, and we need to put here the name of the variable, which is schools. Perfect. Okay, we can give here some name too, or for this specific task, so which can be get schools based in ID, get schools from the database, something like this. Okay, we just save it. Okay, it's updated here. Perfect. So next task that we want to do, we want to return this variable from this method. So we go here to the return task, which I get drop it here. We connect it to both, and in here what I want to do is to be a local variable too, but in this case it's different. What I want to do is it's the schools variable that we created in this task, and we want to return the first record of these schools. Why? Because don't forget that the method that we choose here, the find object, returns a list of records. Although we put a list of records of a specific ID, which will be a list of just one record, but what we want to do here is to get that specific record, so the first record. So to do that, we just put here the variable name first, and then we just put here the first index of that list, which is the index 0. We just update it, we put this as a variable. Okay, we save, and we can give here some name, which could be return the misspelled the school details, something like that. Okay, return school details. Okay, perfect. And I believe our business logic service, it is done. So from this task we get the schools from the database based in the school ID, which we added here, this input, and then we get a list of records in the schools variable, where in here we return that schools variable, but only the first record. So basically the service is done. We can just save to be sure that it's saved. Okay, there is nothing to save, so the system saved this automatically. Perfect. And that's it. So thank you very much.